In this video, I'm going to show you how to implement the filter from the UI perspective, and also we will parallelly implement the filtering logic in our backend system as well. So first what we will do is we will implement the filtering logic over here and we will apply the filters, and according to the filters that we receive from the backend system, we will adjust our logic so that my gateway service only gives back the information according to this particular filtering criteria which I have provided. So first we will go to our application project which we have been developing, and in the master view I'm going to implement the filter condition. So to implement this filter, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a search field over here, and instead of creating the search field directly, what I will do is I'm just going to create a toolbar over here, or we can probably make use of a horizontal layout according to your choice. So I will use this horizontal layout where I'm going to import this horizontal layout library as L, where I'm going to say sap dot ui dot layout is the library which I'm importing with L, and here I specify this horizontal layout within which within the content of this horizontal layout I'm going to create a search criteria. So this is what I'm going to implement as for search and refresh, whereas this what we have implemented over here is for the list display. So inside this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a search field. So we have a type of control called as a search field with which we can create the search field, and it is coming from this mobile library, so I have specified directly. And here you could see that it has this properties called, it has an event called search which will be triggered when I click on enter after the search, whereas this live change event will trigger whenever the value has been changed. So this will slow down our performance, so I'm just going to make use of this search, and I'm going to give the ID for this control as ID search, and I'm just going to create an event for this search where I'm going to say it handle sales order search. So this event handle method is something that I'm going to implement in the respective controller, where I will navigate to the master controller, and here inside this I'm going to first implement this on init function, which I will be needing it later. So I'm just going to specify this method over here, where this method is for filtering sales order. So inside this method, we know that whenever it's an event handle method, it imports an importing parameter called oEvent, which will tell us what is the importing, what has been specified on the UI. So we also have seen this already, where inside this oEvent we have a parameter called query, which will give me what is the search criteria. So I'll just get this query as variable sQuery is equal to um, oEvent dot get parameter of query. So this will give me the query parameter, and based upon this query parameter I'm going to create the filter. So to create the filter, I'm just going to make use of this class called new sap.ui.model.filter is a class where it takes three parameters. One parameter is going to be the field with which I wanted to filter. I wanted to filter according to the sales order ID, and the second parameter is going to be the filtering operators, where it can be equal to, between, or contains. So here I'm going to use this contains operator, which you can see it in the API documentation here, where for for the filter you have this filter operator as a filtering operator, which is the second parameter which supports any one of this type. So I'm just making use of this contains, and what is the value with which I wanted to filter. So I specified as sQuery. So I just created a filtering criteria, and I wanted to apply this filter to this list display so that it limits the value. So in order to do that, I'm going to get the instance of this list control as variable o list is equal to this dot get view of, and by specifying the ID I get the reference of the list control. Then once I have obtained the reference of the list control, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the binding as variable o binding is equal to, I'm going to get the bindings for this items aggregation in order to restrict that value. So I'm going to get this items aggregation binding, so that I get it as from the list control. I'm going to call this method get binding, and I'm going to specify that I wanted the binding for this items aggregation. Then to this binding object I'm going to call this method filter, and I'm going to give the filtering condition. So since this accepts the value as an array, what I will do is I'm just going to create a filters array here, where filters is equal to an empty array of, and whatever the filtering condition that I have created so far, that I will put it into this thing, filters dot push off o filter, and that filtering is something that I'm going to apply it over here. So we will debug this part, and parallelly we will also debug it in the backend as well, where I put a breakpoint here. Okay, so I will reload this application. Okay, um, one thing that I have missed out over here is that I did not push the code back here to this server, so which is why it is not reflecting. So I'll just push the changes to the server, right click, team, submit, click on finish. So the changes has been submitted. Now we will reload this application again, where I will execute this breakpoints. Oh, shit. Okay, so now here you could see the search criteria has been displayed over here, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to search with this title ID. So let's say for example I wanted the sales order which has this pattern 00001, and when I click on enter, what we are doing over here is that we are creating an empty filters array, and then we get the query by reading this query parameter, which gives me the value that I have entered, and based upon that value I have created a filter where I specify that I wanted to search for this path sales order ID, and the operator should be contains, and the value should be this. I put it in an array, then I get the reference of the list. From the list I get the binding reference, and from the binding I apply this filter. So now when I execute this, what will happen is that it will try to apply this filter by reading the entity set once again. And if you see here, we have not actually implemented any logic for the filters over here, but if you check the importing parameters, it has this importing parameter called iv underscore filter string, where you get the filtering condition as a string, or you also have this internal table it underscore filter underscore select underscore option, where you can see that what is the property for which I wanted to do the filtering, and what is the select option value that has been provided for me. So based upon this, I'm going to implement the logic in the backend with which I'm going to restrict the value according to this. So here you also have to notice one thing, that this low and high value are of type string here when it comes from the gateway service. So you'll have to map it to the respective value before you could actually make use of this select options. So it's just an ABAP thing. So I'm just going to check for this internal table. If this value is not initial, then I'm going to modify the logic accordingly. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to check like if is not initial, then I will go with the filtering logic. Otherwise, I will stick on to the existing logic. Just display some 10 records. So if this value is not initial, then what is this? What is that I'm supposed to do? So I wanted to read the filtering condition over here. Now from the debugger, you could see that the filtering condition comes as I wanted the property value sales order ID, which is the field which I have given for filtering. I wanted this particular select option for this sales order ID. So what I will do is, I know that this is the structure with which I'm getting the data. So for further processing, I'm going to create a work area for this of this particular type, the same type which is supported, where I'm going to say data ls underscore filter underscore so type this. So if the filtering condition is not initial, then I'm going to say it like read table it underscore filter underscore select underscore options into work area ls underscore filter underscore so with key. What is that key with which I'm getting? I'm getting as property as so id. So I'm going to specify here as property is equal to sales order ID with which I'm going to get the value. So if this condition is satisfied, size sub or C equal to 0, then what I will do is I'll just put an end if to it. And here I'm going to say if this condition is satisfied, then what I will probably do is I'm going to get this select options and I'm going to apply the select option as a filter. So I have this particular row now with this particular information as this. So what I will do is, so since it does not support the default type with this, where you could see that it has this parameter called selection parameter ID, where the structure is this range. So if you check this particular thing, this accept the value as character 10, but whereas the value that you are getting over here is of type string, it does not match us. So I will just create a range table of this particular type and then I will put it into the structure. So I'm basically doing a type conversion here. So what I will do is I'll just create a couple of more thing where I'm going to say ls underscore so underscore filter type this and lt underscore so underscore filter type table of this. So what I will do is that now I will loop this thing ls underscore filter underscore so into ls underscore so uh, so this one is of this particular type, so I'll just create a work area for this. ls underscore um, filter underscore so underscore select of type this. So I just looped it and then I will just move the value corresponding ls underscore filter underscore so underscore select to the filtering type which is needed for me, which is this, and I will append this append ls underscore so underscore filter to lt underscore so underscore filter. Then once I have got this value, then what I will do is I'll just call this function module, where to this particular function module I'm going to, I do not want it to pause this data now as I'm applying the filter, sorry, where I'm going to apply this filter over here. So basically what I have done is that I have just converted the filtering condition into the type which is supported over here, and I just import the value over here. So I'll just do a syntax check. Here, hyphen select option is the internal table which I wanted to loop. Okay. So I activated this. Now we will execute this and we will re-trigger it again. Okay. So now that the service has been activated, what we will do is we will just put a breakpoint here, and we still have one more thing active. Okay. So now what we will do is that we will reload our application, where in this case when it is loading initially the filter condition will be empty, so it will go on to the else spot and it will execute with some 10 rows. And then now when I'm going to actually apply the filtering, let's say for example I'm applying the filter for 00001 and I click on enter. So from the UI we are triggering our request, and that request will be coming inside this application, where you could see that the filter condition is now not empty. So what I'm doing is that whatever the select option that we are getting over here as a string, to convert it to the respective type, I'm just created a work area of the same type and I'm moving it. Then from this work area I'm moving the value to this work area. So in this work area everything is of type string. So here the value is of type string. So what I did is I have created a work area with the actual type where it is of character 10 and I'm moving the value to this. So here you could see the value has been moved to the respective type, and based upon that I build an internal table, and that internal table of filters I'm going to pass it to this function module, and I'm going to get the data accordingly. So here now you could see that I have 101 record which matches this pattern 0001, which will be displayed from the UI. And there should be one more thing. Okay. So here you could see that according to the filtering criteria that I have specified, that many number of record has been displayed. So to say it, what I will do is that now I will filter with 134. So I'm just going to say 0000134. So I click on enter again. I execute it here, and I will execute it from here as well. And here you could see that only that record which matches the filtering criteria has been displayed over here. So we have implemented our logic for the filter. Then what I will do is that in the UI I will also implement the logic for this refresh button as well. So if the end user wanted to refresh and see the latest content, then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to place a button control over here where I'm just not going to give any text to this. Instead I'm just going to give the icon, where the icon is going to be sap hyphen icon colon double slash refresh is the icon. And when this has been pressed, then I wanted to call this method handle so refresh, where I'm going to implement this method here, refresh function. So I do not wanted any parameter for this. Instead what I will do is that I will get the binding of this, and with the binding I'm just going to trigger the method refresh. So I'll just push the changes first to the server team, submit. Finish. I will empty the cache and reload it. Also I will just deactivate this breakpoint. I should have deactivated it. Okay, so here you can also see this refresh button has been available now. So if you go to the network section, and when you click on refresh, you could see that the request has been triggered with for this particular entity, and the call has also been triggered to the backend, where according to the values that you have already, the filters or whatever that you have already, it is going to refresh your application. Okay, so now we have implemented the filtering and we have implemented our refresh logic. Then in the next step, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to place a footer over here, and I'm going to implement the sorting functionality, where I'm going to sort this value and I'm going to look at this values. So see you then. Thanks for watching.